Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sofie Kremer. I am the International Sales Manager here at 𝗙𝗵𝗃 International, and we're very happy to have you here for this session where I will be your host. We have a really exciting lineup of speakers for you with some very interesting topics that I think will really hit a nerve around digitalization, around sustainability, around AI. In summary, how do you future-proof your fleet and how do you get there? So before we get started with our lineup of our expert speakers, we have just a few housekeeping items. As you probably noticed, all of your cameras and all of your microphones are currently muted. However, we will be able to offer you a Q&A session. You can submit all of your questions via the QR code on the screen. So just take a quick picture of it, see if you would like to submit a question throughout all of the presentations. We will collect them and answer all the questions at the end of all three presentations. So here is a quick sneak peek at our preview. And I would say, without further ado, we will start with our first speaker. I would like to introduce you to Richard Gottwald, our BMW Financial Services lead strategy for B2B and mobility. And as you all know, today's fleet decision makers are faced with a lot of different challenges, a very fast-moving environment. And Richard will give us an impact and an insight into these topics. So, Richard, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our strategy slot, Driving Tomorrow. And exciting times in the leasing industry at the moment. A lot of things changing, and it's very volatile on a global scale. So let's have a look on major trends we are currently facing in our industry, which is general market dynamics, which is sustainability and the speed of digitalization, which I will touch in my presentation in the next couple of minutes. So let's kick it off with overall market trends. And here, three perspectives on it. Market consolidation, leasing and usage models, as well as multi-cycle management, so to say, used car leasing. So let's have a look into the market consolidation piece. If we look in the markets, so to say, the big leasing companies like Ayvens, Arval, Athlon, and 𝗙𝗵𝗃, they have probably 50% market share in the operational and financial leasing market in Europe. So there is still a lot of room to, let's say, consolidate, but also enough room for competition in the market. We have seen big and small mergers like ALD and LeasePlan to Ayvens, but also recently 𝗘𝗍𝒄 is acquiring the Czech Republic and Slovakia part of Business Lease. And we believe that downsides from a post-merger integration phase would be, let's say, overcompensated on the long run by better footprint and also economies of scale. And these economies of scale you would need also then to invest into future topics like AI and growth. So overall, we expect further consolidation of the market, especially as long as leasing companies are writing good profits and therefore achieving high valuation in terms of company value. Let's have a look into the topic of the leasing market and the usage models. In our base scenario, we expect the European leasing market for B2B growing in the next 5 years by 1.5%. There are markets like Spain or Portugal that will be growing much faster, and there are markets like Germany or Netherlands that will grow less than the average. But there are also studies around that expect far more growth in the leasing segment. And there are good reasons for that, especially when it comes about battery electric vehicles, so BEVs, so to say. And we believe the driver here behind that is insecurity about residual values of BEV vehicles and the fast-changing technology and the technology enhancements, especially when it's about the batteries. So this overall can fuel additional potentials in the leasing market. Increased relevance of multi-cycle management. Down to earth, that's used car leasing. And also here, we believe that battery electric vehicles are fueling this trend, as they probably have less service and maintenance costs, as well as the batteries, at least as the recent studies say, are lasting longer than expected. And this topic will typically pick up with private customers, but we also believe that there are some potentials in the business to employees, but also in the B2B area. We think starting with a second cycle is a good thing for a financial services company. Anything above third, fourth cycle is a challenging thing in terms of profitability yet. So summing up the market trend chapter. Volatile environment, we at 𝗙𝗺𝗃 make sure that we offer a right footprint, the right products and services to you in the markets. So let's talk about sustainability. When we look into ESG overall, I would say it has become commodity to a certain extent. All the big leasing companies providing ESG reports, setting ESG targets, doing certification like EcoVadis, as we do with 𝗙𝗺𝗃 as well. And we see that commercial fleets are contributing to the electrification very significantly, even more as the private space at the moment. And we see two drivers for that. Many of our customers are already implementing their own sustainability roadmaps, where BEVs are playing an essential role. And the leasing companies, as well as 𝗙𝗺𝗃, are providing consulting services around e-mobility and CO2. Also with 𝗙𝗺𝗃, we implemented ESG managers in all our core markets that make sure that we react to local different regulation accordingly. That also leads me to that fragmented governmental support topic. I don't know what you have experienced, how many changes in regulation and subsidies happened in your specific market. If we start counting, we have seen in the last 2 years at least 20 and more changes in the core European markets. And on top of that, we see total different models. Is it only tax incentives? Is it purchasing subsidies? Is it a mix of both? Is it only focusing on corporate taxation, so to say, in the company taxes, or is it also going into the private space? A real challenge in this context is that most subsidies are focusing on new cars, so there's more challenge on the used car side then, and it seems somehow sometimes to be out of balance. Just recently in Italy, they set up a support fund of 600 million euros. That was sold out in 24 hours. So meaning demand is there, it's a matter of price in the market. And now coming to a very interesting topic, we expect the next automotive package from the EU Commission being up for discussion in December. And there's a new item potentially in it, which is called green corporate fleets. And this would force corporate clients and also rental companies to use BEVs starting 2030 onwards. Details are not clear yet, but we have certain doubts that this will be a good approach. We believe less regulation is better. The market needs to prove that EVs are working and not being forced into it. Just taking an example. If you think we are now pushing new cars into the corporate segment, which is roughly 56 to 60% of sales in Europe, and you don't have a functioning used car market, this ultimately would lead to higher prices that nobody wants. So we are trying to influence in a process where the frame conditions for electric mobility are right, yeah, for private, for corporate, for new cars, for used cars, and not forcing things into the market. So overall, less regulation would be good. We at 𝗙𝗺 continue with you our joint road to sustainability. Now, talking about digitalization. At the moment, everything is about AI, automation, and telematics. So when we look into the AI topic, we are in a transition phase now from, let's say, trying it out to creating value. And there are two factors paying into that. That are technology advancements, like we are coming from a more conversational AI, chatting and so on, now into an agentic AI that can really solve problems, and that will scale, I guess, in the next 4 or 5 years tremendously. And then in the long run, in the 2040s, 50s, we will really see AI autonomous systems that run independently over days and weeks, solving their individual business requirements. And the second factor is an organizational and employee one. So in the beginning, you started with experts and data scientists to get AI running. And nowadays, you broaden your base of people that can use it and creating value in your organization. So, but not to forget, there is legacy in many companies when it comes about IT. So those companies that are fast in getting their legacy right and connected with the new AI world will have a competitive advantage. So looking into the leasing and in the leasing industry, what potentials are in that space. So we see fast and more efficient software development as one piece, but also the risk management and fraud protection, as well as automation and personalization of the customer interaction. So many things we are currently already working on, and we'll learn even more later on in the presentation. Last but not least, telematics. So not only focusing on the data we have anyhow based on our contracts, we want to know what's happening with the asset out there, and you probably as well. So there are new use cases now coming up, also enabled by the right regulatory framework and the technologies. So we at 𝗙𝗺 working together with 𝗘𝗀𝘃 here to get the data into the system and driving the right analytics in the space. So summing up digital, 𝗙𝗺 makes digital to its core without sacrificing the personal customer interaction. And with that, I guess we'll learn a lot more on digital and AI today. So back to Sofie.
Thank you so much, Richard. Certainly a lot of movement in the industry and a lot happening. So thanks again. I would like to introduce you to our next speaker, Dr. Sascha Thimmel, our head of customer channels and digital commerce. And he's here to cover a topic that I think is discussed all over the place in every boardroom and every kitchen table, which is AI, artificial intelligence. Everyone has an opinion about it. Some people think it's dangerous. Some people think it's a benefit and impact you can create. But one thing is for sure, it's for sure here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So how can you as a fleet provider use it to your best advantage? So very curious to hear Sascha's take on this topic.
Thank you very much. I mean, the headline of this entire slide is AI Decoded, because what we need to talk about is getting a bit behind the mystery of AI. And I mean, I could talk for ages now about AI, but I want to narrow it down to 3 main messages for today's slot. The first message is it's about not just doing something with AI, but creating an impact. So how do you do that? Second message is, it's just a project. So let's build on the skills and the expertise we already have in the company. And the third category is all about take the people with you, because otherwise you just rolled out another tool without any adoption or usage, which doesn't create any impact. And before we now start into the three categories, there's one big thing that you need to do upfront, and that is the perfect bridge to the first category. So don't ask yourself, what can you do with AI? But start the question the other way around, with the question of, what are the business problems that we have? Because you don't want a solution for a minor problem. You want a solution for your key problems. So start with your business problems. Is it that you don't have enough time to perform some task? Is it that the quality of some task is not in the appropriate way? Is it that the data is maybe not in the right shape? So these are the underlying topics that you need to first sort, and then you can jump into the next steps of seeing where can AI assist you. And trust me well, there are lots of potentials in every category that is almost unimaginable. Even if we don't see it now, it will come in the future. And there are two dimensions which are basically everywhere around AI or business problems. The one is the outward facing and the other is the inward facing. So the first question is how to improve our customer interface. And customer interface could mean internal or external customers. And the second category is about how to streamline, optimize, and make our internal processes more efficient. And with this, I want to go to the next pillar structure, which guides you a bit, because there are two basic ways how to approach this entire topic. So there are three layers. It's about data, the underlying layer. It's about technology, representing the AI, tools, tool sets, and it's about the use cases for value creation. And what I already said is there are like two ways how to approach it. And those two ways are either bottom up, so you start by cleansing your data and making sure that the data foundation is there, and then figure out later on what are potential use cases that we can find from that, what are implications that we can find from a structured way of having the data together. And the other is coming by use cases. I would say it's depending on the maturity you already have in using and adopting AI. If you start from scratch, I would always recommend start with use cases. Why? Because use cases are the more intuitive and business-oriented way of approaching things. So start with your problems, start where do we have our main issues, and then you find use cases to do it. And don't limit your ideation of the problems to any AI solutions, but rather interview experts later on how can you adopt it. Typical use case around fleet business in use cases, probably reporting, which we will touch later on. So the question of how long do I take in order to get the appropriate reports around my TCO or whatever ready around my entire fleet. And the other thing is, you have many different data sources. To give you an example for the bottom-up approach, how can I combine these different data sources coming from external, coming from internal, and so on and so forth. But this is always a very painful process coming from talking about experience here, and it takes a long time. And that's why I would always recommend start with the use cases first and then go deeper into it. All right. That was the first message, right? So focus on the business problems and not just on doing something with AI, because then you create value and you lever it. The second one is how to get it on the road. And I already gave you a sneak preview about it. It's just a project. So what are the key questions around a project? It's the same thing as most of you probably know from their school times. It's just a few questions that are always the same, not just in a project. The first question is, what do I want to achieve? What should be different after I introduced an AI solution or even not an AI solution? That question oftentimes is okay-ish answered, but the next question is most of the time neglected, and that's why. Why are we actually doing this? What are the KPIs to change after that? And you can even go so far and say, if your supervisor tells you something, don't just perform the task, but always ask yourself, why does he or she needs that? And the same holds true for AI. don't just follow any rules, but ask your questions. What do we want to achieve? Why are we doing this? Because if you answer this appropriately, you will always have an easier way in the third category later on, and that is winning the employees and the colleagues to join you on your AI path. Third question is exactly building this bridge. For whom are we actually doing this? So who's the audience of it? And who's maybe even involuntarily the users of it? We'll come to that in a second. The question on the bottom is when. So give yourself a time bound. Put the project on a timeline, on a milestone planning. Make sure that you don't just start and try to get somewhere, but by when do you expect which result? Treat it as a normal project. And I mean, most of the big companies have very thorough project management. So I'm pretty sure that there is something already which you can build on. The next question is how. And how has a very, very diverse dimension, because it comes from data privacy. So what are the limitations, the boundaries you have to live within? Is it data privacy? And maybe even for the European Union, we have this AI Act, which gives some guidance, which also requires for a literacy in AI before you start really doing these projects. So what are the boundaries that you live within? And there's one boundary that you shouldn't forget, but oftentimes is forgotten. And that's, don't build an isolated AI solution. Most of the time, in order to really make it sustainably working and producing an impact, you need to integrate it into existing IT solutions. And that requires interfaces, that requires interface contracts, and so on and so forth. So it's not just about building isolated components, but how to integrate it into an existing landscape, because then everybody can benefit from it. So use your existing IT knowledge, use your project management topics. And then there's the question about who should do it. So is it yourself? Is it a team? And also about how should we govern it? Is the decentralized or a centralized approach better? So should we bundle all forces for AI in one place, or should we decentralize it? And here also a clear statement from my side. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. So you probably need to do something in a hybrid way. Because if you want to get going, and if you want to start somewhere, a decentralized approach oftentimes is way more beneficial than waiting for a centralized concept. If you have then reached a certain level, then a centralized concept can be way more beneficial. And oftentimes you need a bit of both. So you need to find, like, what is the common denominator across all of these AI projects? Let's talk about a very good example that is popular out there, AI chats. Do I need to build an AI language model chat integration in every Spike use case? No, I definitely don't. So that's a typical case for centralization. However, a decentralized approach in the same topic is to make sure that people then can adopt it to their appropriate needs without having to wait for a somehow bottleneck team. So it's a bit of both, but I would always recommend just start it with having the boundaries in place. But what you should establish from the very get-go is a center of competence that makes sure that the AI literacy, the AI knowledge, and the AI skills is coming together with the knowledge about project management in the company. And with this, I'm going to the last category. And the last category is a bit different for this project, but not totally new to us, because we know change management and we know transformation projects. So the last category is about the people, the users, because AI in itself will, as far as of now, only create very limited impact. But if it comes together in a human-machine interaction, there's like the real lever that you're looking for. So what are the people thinking about it? And if we then take a look at some numbers, we see a very dramatic picture. And these numbers are 77% fear a loss of job, which is a huge thing. Because a loss of job is a substantial threat for people. They're losing their basis for their living. 71% unclear responsibilities, 66% excessive dependence on these new tools. So losing ownership, losing clear responsibility and self-determination. And that combines it a bit. There's 64% losing humanity. And that's a very, very, very significant impact that AI will make on people. So the question is how to win them. Because as the headline already says, you need the buy-in in order to make it fruitful and sustainable. And the first thing about new technology is always, it's a threat if you don't understand it. So the first pillar to come around this is explanation. And seeing that it works out. I always use this metaphor of switching from a map navigation to a GPS. It's a very, very crucial thing that we are having everywhere right now. We don't even think about it, but it was a change. And this change took some time. So how do you perform this change appropriately? First, leave the people their backup working way. So leave them the map, because this already creates trust that you don't take away their old way of working entirely. And then provide them with the new tools and make sure that they can use the new tools. And as soon as they see the value for them, then you really get to the next level of adoption, because then people really buy into it. And eventually don't even think about their map anymore because they're just using their GPS. However, education alone won't do the job, because there's one person that needs to go ahead, at least one person. Because in the end, you need a critical mass of people doing it before others buy in. These early adopters, they need to go ahead. And now it's up to you. Do you want to be this early adopter? Because if you don't trust it, how can you ask your colleagues? How can you ask your employees? How can you ask your team somewhere, even across countries, to adopt any AI? So that's the main thing. So live it, prove it, and convince the people of the impact that you are creating with it. And then you will also be successful in the third category. And with this, I would love to hand over to Sofie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Sascha. Amazingly insightful. And as we mentioned earlier, it's a powerful tool when used right. And how do you incorporate it into your typical daily business? This is a question that we get a lot. In general, in order to run a fleet efficiently and easily and smoothly, the more data-driven decisions you can make and the more access you have to accurate data, the better. And at 𝗙𝗵 International, we have incorporated AI into our fleet reporting, our award-winning fleet reporting, as Onno will explain in just a minute. Onno Oele is our international lease consultant. It's his day-to-day business to deal with fleet reporting, and he will give you an overview of how we leverage fleet reporting to help our fleet operators manage their fleet smoother, better, more data efficient. Thank you, Onno.
Yes, thank you very much, Sophie, and good morning everybody from my side as well. I will talk about our fleet reporting tool, where I will firstly take you through the current capabilities for any new customers, and at the end also show you the new capabilities of our tool to show you what we're working on behind the scenes. I will be discussing the 4 current topics first, and then lastly the latest development. So, starting us off, I would first like to talk about our tailored reporting. This is one of our core components of our fleet reporting, where you're able to customize any of the reports to your needs. If we look at how it functions, you're able to select one of the predefined contracts, either on contractual data or fuel card data, if you have fuel cards with 𝗙𝗵, where you're then able to open the report and download it already straight away for your use, or create a copy and tailor it to your needs. When you copy it, there are 4 different things you can customize. Firstly, the reporting fields. In here, you're able to add and delete any data fields that you would like, to make sure you only incorporate the data fields that you really need in your report and get rid of any noise. This can be done very easily. Afterwards, you're able to then also change the order of these data fields by simply going into the order and drag and dropping the data fields in the desired order. This way you ensure that the data comes out exactly how you intended to do. Thirdly, you're able to filter the data behind it. So for example, you can take active and terminated fleet. You can choose a specific type of fuel. Or, for example, you're also able to only take out the registered vehicles in the past 12 months. Then, when you have set all the different customizations to your liking, you're able to schedule the report for downloading as well, either weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Save the schedule, and in the end, you see the summary of your report, after which you're able to either download it when you want to use it straight away, or save the report for future reference and also for other colleagues to use the report as well. When you create a report, it is to look into multiple contracts at the same time, of course. However, we have also integrated a search function to look into single contracts. In here, you are able to go to the search bar at the top and search for individual contracts through unique identifiers, such as the contract number or the license plate. After which you're able to go into the contract and look at either the contractual data, like driver, duration, and mileages, the vehicle data, such as the brand, powertrain, CO2 emissions, or at the bottom, you also have the breakdown of the lease rate to see what exactly entails the total price. Lastly, you're also able to add comments at the top in case you have any specific details that you would like to share for this contract, for example, an upcoming driver switch. Having said that, I would like to talk about the AI assistant. This is a very exciting functionality that we've launched last year at Fleet Europe in October, for which we've won this year 2 awards. So we've won the Best of Mobility Award in September at the IAA in Munich, and we've also won the Innovation Award a couple of weeks ago at Fleet Europe. What this functionality does is basically allows you to quickly gain insights into your fleet. So located on the main dashboard, you're able to go into the AI assistant and ask it any question. For example, please show me the split of my powertrains. Now it will think of your prompt into an SQL code and present you the data as it seems fit. Currently, it doesn't see the data, so at the top it will simply show you the logic behind the query, followed below with the Excel table of your data, which you're able to extract if you'd like. And at the bottom, it will also present you with a visualization, which you're able to edit yourself in case you want to have a different chart. Afterwards, you're also able to download this graph for your own PowerPoint. Moving on, it also understands ambiguous questions, such as how many non-BEVs do I have? Now, non-BEV is not a labeled value within our database, of course, so it needs to understand this, and we have trained it to do so. So right now it will show you exactly how many non-full electric vehicles are in your fleet, and again show you the visualizations. The overview can be manipulated, and you can also present your feedback at the bottom as well. Or what you can also do is ask it to calculate averages, for example. So what has been my average CO2 emission across my fleet over the past 5 years, where it will take years and data, calculate the CO2 emissions across all the different vehicles within your fleet, and again present it to you with a, in this case, for example, a line graph. You're also able to reset the chat. So currently it doesn't retain the information, so every time you log in it becomes something new. But when you reset it, you're also able to look into, for example, single contracts by asking electrification potential. In this case, show me all the fleet that has more than 100 grams of CO2 emission, less than 20,000 annual kilometers, and terminating within the next 12 months, to look into each specific contract that you might want to electrify. It will, instead of showing you the aggregation, show you the individual contracts, which you're able to scroll through, and you're also able to add different columns and adjust your prompt while talking to the assistant, basically. As you see here, it takes a little bit of time, as usual, but within seconds you have your answer instead of having to download the report, create the pivot yourself, and analyze the data, making your life significantly more efficient. Then when you have the contracts, you're also able to go back into the single contract view and investigate the contract further. Then, next to the functionality of gaining insights quickly with the AI assistant by asking questions, we also have a dashboard. Currently, we have a dashboard that shows you system widgets, as we call it. So these are predefined visualizations. And it's also your main landing page. For example, at the top here, we have the fleet overview across the markets, how this has been developing over the past years. On the right, you have a fleet split. Then below, you can also see here the fuel exceptions for you to investigate. For example, if you have a 50-liter car topping up 60 liters of petrol, or a diesel car topping up petrol as well, then you can investigate and define this with your, or clarify this with your driver. Below, there is a heat map, where on the y-axis you have the annual kilometers, and on the x-axis you have the duration of the contract, where the larger the bubble, the more contracts are hit there, of course. And like this, we have many more widgets which you're able to customize. Or if you want to download the PDF, you can also get the management summary to share it with other internal stakeholders. If you go into these graphs, you're able to filter them on several different predefined filters, such as the year, again the contract status, or if you like to split the data, you're also able to split it on the powertrain to see per market exactly how many BEV, ICE or PHEV, for example, are driving. You're able to save then this graph for future reference. Every time you log in, it will look the same. Or you're able to go into the data behind and actually click into the contracts again, as before. Now, this is it for the current capabilities. And having said that, I would like to introduce to you the developments which we're working on intensely behind the scenes, which is the AI-powered dashboard. Having the functionality of the AI assistant within our fleet reporting allows us to be much more creative, and we want to utilize the functionalities as much as possible to make your mobility easy. If we go into the AI-powered dashboard, you can see here we're in the testing environment as it's not live yet. You will see here a couple of predefined widgets which have been created with the AI assistant. So in here you're able to talk with the AI assistant as you're used to. And for example, we will here show the electrification potential, but not per contract. We want to see the aggregation per market. So now you also see the AI assistant shows you the insights, what's happening in the background, to take you through the process, and then show to you with insights exactly what you asked for. The same thing here, Excel and visualization below, which you're able to edit. In this case, I want the bars to be standing up instead of horizontal. And then you're able to save this widget to your dashboard. You can give it a title to personalize and make you understand exactly what the widget is about, and add any translations in case you have colleagues who do not speak the same language. You are able to add up to 6 languages here, basically. Then afterwards, you're able to add this to your dashboard, and as you can see, it is included amongst the other widgets. You're also able to then delete it and keep it up to date to whatever your requirements are. Having said that, we also have other functionalities such as text-to-speech or speech-to-text, so you're able to have a conversation with the AI assistant. But it's also able to understand the data behind. So now we can also ask it, for example, what are the trends within the adoption of EVs, because it can actually see the data. So you will notice here at the top, it will also give you the indication to say the increase has been significant because it has gone from X percentage to a significantly higher percentage in the future. And again, present you with a visualization which it thinks is appropriate, which again you're able to save as a widget or reset the chat. So in this case, the chat is actually saved. So every time you log in, you will come back until, of course, you reset the chat manually yourself. Now, what you're also able to do, because it understands the data, is run a fleet analysis to make the AI assistant work as a consultant for you. It will show you the over and under mileage contracts, which you are able then to look into, to request, in example, recalculations beforehand, or in general show you the upcoming outrunning contracts in the next 12 months. And the integrated single contract search is always there, of course. These are the current capabilities. We are continuously working on improving this in the background as well to make sure that it becomes more and more as your gateway to our tool, to have insights in your tool. Obviously, you're able to download our reports as you require to feed it into your own data warehouse. However, if you want to know information about your fleet, it is no longer a requirement. The AI assistant makes your mobility easy, and we continue to strive for that. Having said that, back to you, Sofie.
Thank you so much, Onno. Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, it is a powerful tool. It can be used to your benefit, and hopefully we could give you a little glimpse into how we are continuously improving it and always working to move forward and find better solutions for you. So let's jump into a Q&A session, I would say. Richard will join me here. Hello. Thank you very much to all of you, all of our speakers, for your presentations, quite insightful. And we have a few questions that we received. There's the QR code on the screen. If you have any questions, please submit them. And if we don't get to them, we will be sure to follow up and submit them to you later. So the first question that I would like to ask you guys is, are there any overlaps between the new connected car data product, which we also recently announced at Fleet Europe in Luxembourg, if you are paying close attention to what 𝗏𝗏𝗃 is up to these days, and the fleet reporting tool? I believe this would be a question to you both.
Yes, indeed. So there are several overlaps. So for example, the data of 𝗔𝗴𝗽 will be feeding into our fleet reporting. For example, the accurate and live mileages, as well as the fueling of the car, will be integrated within our data system to not only show you the most up-to-date information about your fleet and fleet reporting, but also feeding into our entire ecosystem. For example, the carbon manager and the 𝗔𝗴𝗽 possibility of going into the fleet yourself and seeing what is happening with your cars to act on preventive maintenance and any dangerous driving, for example. So it's a really complete digital landscape that we're creating with the 𝗔𝗴𝗽 partnership.
Thank you. Thank you, Onno. The next question that we have received is, what size do we see as a corporate fleet? Where are the limits?
Yes, I think this is
Who would
another
like
one
to
for
take
me.
this one?
So what we see as corporate fleets is, well, basically anything related, of course, to corporations. So any B2B business is defined as corporate fleet. However, there's different segmentations within this corporate fleet, of course. So you have SMEs going up to 250 cars, and then above 250 cars to 500 plus. These are all seen as large corporate fleets, of course.
Very good. Thank you very much. Another question has reached us through our Q&A, which I believe would be for you, Richard. What is our BEV status at 𝗏𝗏𝗃, and what's our ambition?
Yeah, right. So we are actually also having our ESG targets in place. So in 2030, we want to achieve a 50% BEV share in our business, and today we are roughly halfway to 50%.
Very clear. So the next question I have is one that I'm sure we've all asked ourselves, and this one is for Sascha. Sascha, does this mean that all of our jobs will be replaced by AI?
I think it's a very tricky question because there are two dimensions to it. The one is, will the people not be necessary anymore in the future? And the second is, will our jobs change? And I think the second is the important one. So the variety of jobs that comes up with AI will come on top, as well as some of our jobs will change in the way how we're doing it. But does this mean that we don't need people anymore? No, it doesn't, because we saw the same in the industrialization or industrial revolution beforehand. So the type of work and the different things around work will change. And I think that's the main message that you need to take across, that if you adopt to this change, I think most people will just have an adjusted, maybe even less administrative and boring job in the future.
That sounds quite good. Sounds really good. So the next question that we have from our audience, thank you again for submitting these questions. We really appreciate the interest, and I think we have hit a nerve with a lot of the topics that we covered, is what incentives does 𝗙𝗺𝗃 offer fleet customers in order to adopt e-mobility?
I will take this one as well. The incentives vary, of course, market per market due to the different local circumstances and regulations. However, we're able to support customers to the best of our ability with, for example, consulting, the carbon manager, all of these different tools to make electrification as easy as possible for you, to guide you towards the road of zero carbon emission. I think that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Thank you. And actually, probably straight back to you on the question that reached us here. Will the AI translations be available for local reports as well?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I understand the question correctly. So in terms of the fleet reporting, we have this in all the local languages. So currently as it stands, the dashboard, the reporting, the filters, they're all in German, French, Italian, all the local alphabet markets as well. The AI assistant also works, of course, in the different languages. However, the quality may vary slightly due to the background. In general, with LLM models, we see that English functions better than most other languages. However, with the improvements of the whole landscape across all the languages, this will also improve with us, of course.
Thank you, Onno. And I think the next one is also for you, because there seems to be quite a lot of interest in the reporting tool, which is nice. And we understand that this is quite important and very relevant to our customers. We get these questions every day. So I'm sure you've heard this one before. Can you include data from other lease suppliers in the 𝗙𝗺𝗃 reporting tool for an international fleet manager? And how would we do that?
The short answer to the current situation is no, we cannot in our fleet reporting tool. We do have this capability in our carbon manager. In here, you will always have automatically all of the 𝗙𝗺𝗃 fleet, because we have a data transfer with plan A, as well as the option of manual upload through an Excel to make sure you have the entire fleet CO2 emissions, but also, of course, the split between brands and powertrains in one place. However, when it comes to our own fleet reporting tool itself, as there are many GDPR and anti-competition laws in place, we need to ensure that we fulfill all of these conditions, which is why currently we do not have this in place. We have been asked this question in the past before, so in the background we are investigating this. However, there are so many caveats when it comes to what can we include, what can we not include, because obviously we are unable to see pricing. This would be a long-term wish rather than within the next year, for example. And lastly, one other thing I would like to mention is we do have cooperation partners. So we have 12 core 𝗙𝗺𝗃 markets, but we have 26 OneNet partners across the globe. And we are continuously working on integrating them within our fleet reporting. So as it stands, we have 10 partners included. However, year by year, we are increasing this. And by next year, we are aiming to have that number increased.
Thank you, Onno. And I think we have time for one more question. And this one actually goes to Richard. Richard, what trends do you foresee for traditional fleet financing products? Where's that future headed?
Yeah, I guess a clear trend is towards operating lease, but also seeing more flexible products and rent like offerings or subscription, if you want to like to call it that way, that will take a bigger share in the future. And as well, maybe on the service side, the whole topic on BEVs, charging, energy will play a much bigger role potentially in the ecosystem. So these factors I would consider most relevant at the moment.
Thank you. And I think that's all we have time for today. But thank you so much to our speakers, to Sascha, to Onno, and to Richard for giving us some insights into where the future in mobility and fleet is going. If you've enjoyed this, I can already give you a quick teaser that we will have another webinar which we will be hosting in probably early 2026, and we will discuss another very, very hot topic, which will be connected car data. Another topic, according to AI, in addition to AI, that's quite commonly discussed. Thank you again. Please stay tuned. After this recording or after this webinar, you will receive a quick survey. Please let us know how we did. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you could get a little bit of sparks and some ideas for your daily business on how to operate your fleet. And for any questions, we are always available, the entire team. So ask us anything you like, and we'd be happy to help you and guide you. Thank you very much to all of you.